Welcome, book nerds. Today I'm interviewing author Rachel Howzell Hall about her latest mystery, They All Fall Down. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and thank you for downloading this week's book chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Every week we get bookish with roundtable book discussions, 5-minute shelf bites, interviews, and more. Subscribe on your podcatcher of choice so you don't miss out on any of this book nerd awesomeness. If you'd like to email in feedback or questions, reach out to me at info@shelfaddiction.com or call in and leave an internet voice message via SpeakPipe. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Shelf Addiction. The links for everything related to today's episode, including Rachel's social media, are below in the show notes. If you know someone who may like this episode, please share this with them today. Before we get started, let me tell you a bit about today's interview guest. Rachel Howzell Hall is the author of the acclaimed Lou Norton series and co-author of The Good Sister with James Patterson, which appeared in the New York Times bestselling anthology, The Family Lawyer. She is the Senior Donor Relations Officer with Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. She currently serves on the Board of Directors for the Mystery Writers of America. She is a member of Sisters in Crime and has participated as a mentor in the Association of Writers and the Writers Program, Writer to Writer. She lives in Los Angeles. I had a wonderful time interviewing Rachel, and I know you'll have a wonderful time listening. Without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Hi, Rachel. Welcome. Thank you for coming on today.
And thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to talk about your new book, They All Fall Down. But first, let's find out a little bit about you. You down?
I'm down.
Share with us what you're reading right now.
I am reading a few things right now. I decided to read Bird Box since I really loved the Netflix series. I am reading Serpent and the Rainbow, which is an older book, and there was a movie back in the day of the same title. And so I'm reading those two things actively. That's about it. And every time I get to work and after I'm finished writing whatever I'm going to write, I tool around the internet and just look for interesting things. And right now I'm kind of imagineering a novel. So I'm trying to stay away from a lot of crime and mystery. So that I'm not, tainted and depressed because of all the good writing out there. And I can't possibly imitate any of these authors I'm reading. So I stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And read things that aren't related to what I'm writing right now.
So is your favorite genre to read the genre that you also write?
Yes. I absolutely love crime and mystery. Second place, I would say, would be true crime and true mystery. So I like the genre because it fits everything. You can have romance in mystery and crime. You can have suspense, and it can be historical. It's all over the place. It captures everything for me. So I don't need to go anywhere else. It has it all for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do like mystery and crime and true crime. Actually, I mentioned that a couple of podcast episodes ago. I've really been into true crime lately. It's like a thing. I just can't help myself.
Oh yeah. Especially with, is it on the 10th that HBO is going to have Adnan Syed, a continuation on that story. So I'm so excited.
Yes, I'll be there with bells on.
There's more. And now we're going to get the visual component. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, wonderful. Me too. Okay, so do you have an author or authors that you are read like on auto buy? Whenever they have something come out, you just buy it. You don't even read the synopsis.
Oh yeah, Stephen King is that novelist for me. It doesn't matter if I'm going to read it now or 10 years from now. Whatever he pushes, I'm there for it. I've been a fan of his since childhood, and reading Christine and Cujo and Pet Sematary and all the old standards. That was me then, and this is me now. My last book that I read was The Outsiders, which just came out maybe a few months ago of his. And I really liked it.
So you would recommend that we read it if we haven't?
Yes, but be prepared for the Stephen King ending because he rarely ends the right
Yeah.
way. He rarely sticks that
Yeah.
ending. But the ride up to that ending though is a great ride. But again,
It's
if you're
always the ending with
it's
him. I
always
swear. I
ending.
don't know.
It's always a big spider or something. And it's like, well, what did spiders do to you? And why are spiders always the big bad at the end of your novels? So yeah, but what makes him so great though is, what I try to do in my own writing. His sense of place and his sense of describing just ordinary people. I absolutely love that. And that was a kind of a guide, my North Star in a way of how I wanted to write and what I wanted my voice to be. And, kind of like Prince is for me, sometimes there are clunkers and um, things that aren't as classic as some other things. But their artistry, both Prince and Stephen King, their artistry is pure. It's something to imitate and something to learn from. So
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Well, it sounds like he is a good inspiration for you. So do you think that your characters are also kind of, I guess, character based? Like your books are character based versus like plot based because you like to delve into the characters?
Yeah, I like some plot, and of course, writing this genre, you have to have some. But I'm really fascinated and repelled by people and the little things that make us who we are. And that was the fun thing about writing They All Fall Down, which was kind of different in some ways than my Lou Norton series, is taking those seven deadly sins and embodying them in the characters throughout the book and finding out, what makes this person lustful or envious or gluttonous. And, sometimes I found myself with a character that kind of Venn diagrammed all those bad qualities. And that just, it made it even more fascinating. But yeah, I like characters and I like making them sound different and having them have their own weird affectations. It can be a challenge, but that's, I think for many writers, that's our superpower, taking,
Yeah.
uh, taking regular people that we see and taking things from them and putting them onto these fictional people.
Do people know you see themselves as bad people in your books? Does that happen?
Not necessarily bad people, but
Yeah.
they do see moments in the story where I obviously took from something that happened in real life. For instance, in Skies of Ash, the second in my Lou Norton series, there's a scene where Lou's best friend, Lena, is taking pole dancing classes and she invites her friends to her pole dancing recital. And that actually happened. And we had a friend who was taking pole dancing classes.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and there are these invitations, and it was really crazy. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to put this in a book, right? And she just laughed because she kind of knew that. My friends and family are kind of used to me plucking parts of them for my entertainment. So yeah, by now everybody knows. You come around me, you do something crazy, it may find itself
It's
in
that's
the
so
paper.
funny. Oh my God, that happened.
And there was one moment where my very first book, A Quiet Storm, and I had a scene in there about burying a dead pet, and someone took that as me stealing their very real story, and they were pretty upset
Oh,
about it. And actually, I hadn't. I mean, how many kids have dead pets? And how many
a
kids
lot.
bury their dead
Yeah.
pets in the backyard? And I was actually
Yeah.
referencing myself in that. And she was wrong, but she took it as I'm stealing from her life. And I'm like, dude, there are other things that I could have
No.
stolen from, but a dead pet and, having a
Oh.
pet funeral is not one of them. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. Well, you mentioned your Eloise Norton series. So obviously you're very well known for that, and that is a series. So what made you want to do a standalone title?
Well, one, I have so many ideas in my head, and because, especially since I work full time and I am a mom and a wife, I can't get to them. So these stories kind of just stay in my head. But this one, especially after, I'm a child of the church. So you kind of grow up learning about sin and the punishments of sin and all the rest of it. And I'm an English American Lit major. So that means I read a lot of stories, especially, Dante's Inferno, when you read about crime and punishment. But it wasn't until I saw the movie Seven with Brad Pitt
Mm-hmm.
and Morgan Freeman, and then read Shirley Jackson's Haunting of Hill House, that this idea of writing a similar story hit me. And I think it was our second date, my husband and I, when we were first dating. He invited me over to his apartment and he cooked me dinner, and we watched Murder by Death, which is a Neil Simon film with Truman Capote and Peter Falk, and it's basically kind of a spoof on the Agatha Christie type stories, the Dashiell Hammett type characters. And I didn't know back then that it was kind of based off of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And I absolutely loved that story. And
Mm-hmm.
so all these things kind of mixed in my head, and I wanted to write the story. So I had been writing it for a moment before having this small slice of time to write something in between the Lou Norton series. And so I banged it out and showed it to my agent, who loved it, and then showed it to my editor, who loved it, and they bought it. And here we are.
Wonderful. That
Yeah.
sounds so fun. Okay, let's talk about They All Fall Down. Like, tell us a little bit high level about what the story's about for those that don't know.
It's about, in my story, it's seven Americans, ugly Americans, who are each invited to this private island in the Sea of Cortez off the coast of Mexico. And they are invited there under false pretenses, and shenanigans ensue where people start dying, and they die according to their sins. So that's the very, high level, high level story. But if you've seen any type of haunted house tropey story like that, you kind of know the ending. The original was published by Agatha Christie back in the 40s, I believe. And ever since then, there have been different variations of that type of locked
Mm-hmm.
room story. And mine is
Yeah.
a locked room on an island, so it's doubly locked room. And it was a little difficult in some ways because, those of us who read a lot of mystery and who read
Mm-hmm.
Christie, the ending. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like, well, how am I going to keep this interesting, knowing that people know for the most part what this ending will be? And I've been told by people who are not my friends, who are readers, who say, well, yeah, I knew the ending, but I didn't know you were going to end it like that. So it's still
Oh,
catching people. It's still a twist for readers who are familiar with the story. So that makes me happy.
what's the creep out level? I mean, with your own spin on it, and you mentioned how the Haunting of Hill House, and that thing creeped me out. So,
Oh yeah.
am I going to be creeped out? Like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
No, because it's not necessary. It's not a supernatural thing like the
Mm-hmm.
Haunting Hill House. I I don't think it's, yeah, I don't think it, but I'm not a good judge. I've lived with the story for so long. I don't think it's totally creepy. I think it's, if anything, you look at the people that you are traveling somewhere with. Like if you go on a tour, it's like, well, is this a synthesized thing? Am I going to be okay? Are these people safe? And that's what I wanted. I was thinking about that episode in Twilight Zone where the lights go out, the power goes out in the neighborhood, and the neighbors start suspecting each other of being aliens or something like that. You remember that episode? Are you familiar with?
I don't actually.
Well, it's an incredible episode, and it's basically neighbors turning against neighbors because this was written during the McCarthy times and communism, and it was a study of how we turn against each other ultimately when
Mm-hmm.
all constraints are off of a normal society. So
Okay.
that's what I was very interested in. Just how crazy we don't need the devil and demons. We are actually pretty bad by ourselves in many ways.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And they all fall down. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the main character, Miriam Macy. This book is told from her
Mm-hmm.
point of view, right?
Yes. Which is
Okay.
different from the Christie book. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's first person and it's Miriam. Yeah.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about her. Like, can you give us a little something about her? Like, what's her sin? How does she land herself here? Just a little something, not like everything,
Yeah.
you know.
Miriam and when I thought of this story, I wanted to write it so that it was an African American woman in as the lead, which, is a different thing. You don't get that a lot. And I wanted her to be an every woman. She is a mom, very dedicated, kind of a helicopter tiger mom type.
Mm-hmm.
She's a creative. She writes all these like cool blurbs for her job. She writes copy for um, a company, kind of like a mix between The Real Real and J. Peterman. So she's used to spinning stories. So Miriam is not all that truthful in some. She spins stories, like I said. She spins
Mm-hmm.
stories. Uh, she exaggerates some. She's cries wolf sometimes, and so while she may be unreliable, she doesn't set out to be. I think she is a storyteller just to get people to pay attention to what's going on. And
Mm-hmm.
she's on the island because she loves her daughter and something bad happened to her daughter and people didn't react enough. And so she took matters into her own hands. And
Oh.
yeah, yeah. And
Oh.
while, one could argue that she went too far, I'm a mom and sometimes moms and dads go too far in protecting their kid. So there are moments where I'm like, does Miriam deserve to be on the island? Most days I say yes, but there are some days, especially dealing with teenagers and social media and just how awful kids can be. I can
Mm-hmm.
see myself kind of going off on some kids. You try not
Mm-hmm.
to, and
Mm-hmm.
ultimately I wouldn't, but it's in the realm of possibility. There today on the interwebs, there was a post about some kids in Newport Beach at a party with red cups in the shape of a Nazi symbol, and they're throwing the Nazi salute.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, these are high
Oh.
school kids. And my daughter's in high school, and I think about, well, what if one of these kids did something to her? What would my reaction be? Would I overreact? Probably. So Miriam's kind of dealing with something similar with her own daughter, and she
Okay.
reacted, and it may not have been the most positive reaction, but she did react. I like her.
It sounds like there are some good things about her and there's some things to like and maybe some things to not like.
Yeah, yeah. She's
Mm-hmm.
also divorced from her daughter's father, from her husband, and he is with another woman in the house she shared with him. So she's also kind of a thrown away woman, a replaced
Ouch.
woman. Yeah, so she's pissed off for a very
Yeah.
good reason.
Yeah.
Which, when it comes to love and matters of the heart, we tend to be um, not all that rational sometimes. So she's dealing with a lot. And so she lashes out. And so her unreliability isn't necessarily, oh, she drinks and blacks out, or she pops pills and blacks out. While she does take an anxiety pill, that is not the reason for her nuttiness, for her inability to be truthful. I wanted her to be dishonest because she is dishonest. I wanted her to be unreliable because she is truly unreliable, not because of a substance abuse problem. So, yeah.
Just because it sounds like she'll do what she feels needs to be done, and that may not always be good.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I say she's an every woman. I think a lot of women react and go off the handles sometimes. And, they dub us hysterical or screechy or any of those awful, adjectives to describe women when we're just being people. So I like Miriam a lot.
Awesome. Was there another character that you enjoyed writing for in this book?
I liked writing Desi. Desi embodies lust, and her husband dies during a hurricane, and it was a questionable death, which is why she's on the island. And she's from West Virginia, and she's kind of an ignorant, lusty sort. And just writing her dialogue and her interaction with Miriam, that was fun because she's the light where Miriam is the not so light. So that she was fun to write. Who else? I would say also Eddie, who is this type of angry white man cop, ex-cop from Boston. And his interactions with Miriam, you could probably imagine they're at odds all the time because he's the authority figure and she is not into that at all. She's a black woman from Los Angeles and a white man from Boston telling her what to do. That's not a good mix. So those interactions especially were fun to write.
Nice amount of conflict sounds like, which is going to be interesting.
Well, and it's weird because I have had some reviews where people are like, well, they're unlikable and there's conflict. I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
They're there for sins.
What do you think this
they
is?
should be unlikable.
Have you not read any? No, they're not. They're not, flower pickers and tree huggers and wonderful, wonderful people. If they were, they'd be back on the mainland in their houses, not on this island. This is the point of the story. So yeah, that's a very interesting criticism that I've seen so far. It's like, well, they're all bad people. Yes, that is the
they
point.
are.
That is
exactly.
In morality plays, usually, they have bad people. That's why we're here.
I mean, honestly, in full disclosure, it does say, in the synopsis, 7 sinners. So I'm just saying, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's always an interesting thing with some criticism and some reviewers. There was one Amazon review for, I think it was Land of Shadows, and a woman gave me a 1-star review because she's like, well, this isn't Christian fiction. And I'm like, dude, I didn't say it was Christian fiction. I don't know where you got that this was supposed to be Christian fiction. So it's always a strange thing when you read some reviews because they want you to give them something you never promised,
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, they're all bad people. Well, yeah, it's called They All Fall Down, and it's an homage to And Then There Were None, where the people on the island are bad people.
Bad people. Yep.
I'm not gonna take somebody to an island who's good and kill them off. I'm not gonna I don't get it. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Hopefully you don't get too many more of those.
No, I haven't. For I would say 98% of the people who have read it so far, and those, it's a pre-read since it's out April 9th, they get it and they like it. And it's not surprising that bad people are dying. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But it's weird, being a writer, you can have 98 people who say this is great, but the two people who say this is not great, you believe the two people more than you believe the 98. It's a weird writer thing that I'm glad I'm not the only one who suffers from that affliction. But
Actually, I think it's kind of a artist thing.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because honestly, as far as this podcast, even
Uh-huh.
99 out of 100 will say it's great, and the one that says you suck, it's like, oh, really? Oh, I
Oh,
don't know.
well, what can I do to make it better? It's like, listen to the 99. Oh, but they're just being nice to me. Why would they do that? So, yeah, being a creative is an exhausting thing. It's a
Yeah,
wonderful and exhausting thing. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So I am an audiobook advocate. In case
Mhm.
you don't know, I love a good audiobook. So I'd love to
Ooh.
know is your book scheduled for an audiobook release?
Yes, I am so happy to say it will be an audiobook on the same day as the print and digital publication. So you can download it at your favorite audiobook location on April 9th.
Who's the narrator?
I don't know. I have no idea. I will, I'm sure, find out in the next few weeks or so. But I
Okay.
don't know. And I'm also happy to share that the Lou Norton series will be out in audio pretty soon, in the next few weeks. And that's a first for me. Up until this
Oh.
point, I haven't had audiobooks.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're getting into that because audiobooks are amazing and
Yeah.
people love them.
Yeah. 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 So I'm going to be like everybody else now. Yeah.
Yay. That's
Yay.
awesome. Well, I hope you get a good narrator. Did you help pick them at all or you just left it
Well,
to your team?
for the Lou Norton series, I did get to select between two wonderful voice actresses, and so I'm looking forward to hearing what she does. It's 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 a whole different. It's a weird experience, like thinking that someone's going to take your art and interpret it however she interprets it. So I'm excited and terrified, but I'm excited and
Mm-hmm.
terrified about all of this. You never get used to the feeling of being published and releasing a new book. This is going to be my eighth or ninth work, and I'm still excited and terrified of what's going to happen and how it's going to be received. And um, will this be the one that launches me into the stratosphere of publishing greats? And it's a wonderful and awful thing. But
Oh,
as I get older, it's such a blessing to even
yeah.
do stuff like this. There are writers who never get to do podcasts, and everything that's happening to me as I get older, I'm learning to appreciate it more and to live in the moment and to understand that this is not a regular thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a regular thing.
And as a reader, I appreciate that when authors feel that way because guess what? That tells me that you're always going to give it your best every time you put
Yeah.
something to paper.
Yeah.
You're not phoning it in.
No, no. And for me, especially, it takes too much effort even for me to phone something in is still a lot of effort because, I get up at 5:10 and I get to work for 6 and I write my own stuff up until 7 o'clock or so. And then I work my job at lunchtime. I do some more of my own writing. And if my daughter has like soccer practice, then I'll write some more. So I'm like squeezing this love of mine into maybe 2 hours a day or so. And so I can't phone it in. It's all blood, sweat, and tears for me because I don't have a lot of time. So when I'm doing it, it has to be as good as I can do it because this isn't a hobby for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I am also a reader, and that reading it was my first love, and so I
Mm-hmm.
want to give people the experience that I expect in a book because I'm spending a lot of money on books, And it's just now that I feel okay with not finishing a book. Up until maybe 2 years ago, I would have to stick through a book until the end, hating some books, but I have to. But now it's like, well, I'm never going to get to all the books, so I might as well get to the ones that I want to read right now. So I want to be that book for people. I want to be the book that people finish. So that means me giving it all that I have.
Well, I am glad to hear that. I am excited for They All Fall Down. So I'm looking forward to hearing it. I think I'll pick up the audiobook, actually. I want to hear what that is.
That's one sale.
Yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to share with us about They All Fall Down before we jump into the lightning round?
I just hope that people love it and understand it and share with me who their favorite character was. I like hearing from people. Because it's kind of like if a tree falls in the woods, did it happen? And it's like, well, if no one tells me that they like it, will I have written it? Does it matter? So yes, please tell me, who you liked the most.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let me tell you about the lightning round really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It is 60 seconds, so you just answer as many questions as you can. Some are book related, some are not. Some are open-ended, and others require you to pick one or the other. The only rule is that you must choose. You can't say neither, and you can't say both.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
I love it.
All right, so let me set my timer, and here we go. Physical books or ebooks?
Physical.
Private jet or luxury yacht?
Luxury yacht.
Hero or villain?
Hero.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Bookstore or library?
Bookstore.
If you could only read your favorite genre forever and nothing else, or read everything else except your favorite genre, which would you pick?
Oh, sweet Lord. My favorite genre and nothing else.
Okay. Android or Apple?
Apple.
Vodka or gin?
Vodka.
If you could pick one superpower, what would it be?
Reading people's minds.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Windows or Mac?
Oh, wow. Mac.
Happily ever after or realistic ending?
Realistic ending.
Okay, we're done.
Yay!
Yay! That was fun.
The book question was hard. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I think about that myself sometimes. I'm like, which would I do? Because if I read my favorite genre forever and nothing else, I always wonder, would I get sick of it?
See, but then I fall back on what I said earlier. It's like, well, there can be some romance in there. There can be some all kind of different other sci-fi, mystery, and crime. So I'm good.
Yeah. It's true. You have enough variety within the genre. Very nice. Well, thank you so much for doing the lightning round, and it's been a pleasure having you on.
I have had so much fun. This was great, and the lightning round that was really fun. I'm glad we got to do that.
Yay! Wonderful. Okay, book nerds, be sure to follow Rachel on social media and pick up a copy of They All Fall Down. Available for pre-order now. The links are below in the show notes. So that is it for today, guys, and I will catch you on the next book chat. Take care, guys. If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.